What is going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. We got a busy day ahead of us today. Right now we are headed to Ronin Performance and we are getting the good old daily tuned, our 6-liter GMC Sierra that we just picked up because this thing is an absolute pig on fuel. And it's not fun to spend 130 bucks each time we fill this truck up and only get like 400 kilometers to a tank. So we're going to get this thing a bit of a fuel economy tune. We're going to get more throttle response out of it and adjust the shift points of the transmission. And then we also have to install a head unit in Colin's car. So I'll cue the clip of us surprising him about a month back with this head unit. It was pretty cool. This is for you, buddy. You get a new head unit. Open it up. Let's see what you think.
Have you opened it?
No. You're gonna have Apple CarPlay in a 2004 race car, bro.
And a SIM card. This is a little bit more in depth than the one I had for my hatch. I will admit that. There's a lot more in here.
This is the crazy part. I wanna see what you think of this head unit. It is a flat screen TV.
Yeah?
Like, look at how thin that is.
Holy shit.
It's not even a head unit.
That was thinner even than the one I put in my hatch.
Yeah, the one with my Civic has a big box.
It was like this far out. So.
Yeah.
That's crazy that they actually make one for the 05 still.
Here, let's go compare it to the one you have in it right now. Oh my God. You excited or what?
I am, actually, because like, honestly, I have a feeling this is gonna solve some of the problems with the stereo system already, just because it's an old head unit.
So we are at Ronin right now. I'm just outside because I'm gonna swap the plugs in this thing quick. I figured if we're getting a tune, might as well have some fresh plugs in there. Keep it running nice and clean. And as you can see, it's loud as hell. I'm doing this on the side of the road right now, and it's pretty cold out this morning. So the plugs that were in this thing are a NGK TR5 GP plug, which means I don't think that they are an iridium plug. The burn pattern is pretty good on them, but they are a little rich, and that's why we're getting her tuned, because these things run rich as hell. So we got some TR5 IX plugs, the good old NGK iridiums. So we're gonna toss these in here. I already started pulling them out, and I already wrecked one of the wires. Because if you guys have ever worked on any older Chevys whatsoever, you would know that these spark plug wires literally just disintegrate as you pull them apart. Like this whole boot is just completely cooked. So we got some parts in the back here, air filter, wires, and plugs. And I got all this for like 190 bucks, I think, for everything. So let's get them all swapped out so that Ali can get down here and work his magic on this thing and hopefully save me some money on fuel, because this thing's a pig. All right, so we just finished up with the tune on this thing. We already got our fuel economy down to 18 liters per 100 kilometers. This is after like idling. We did a bunch of pulls and stuff like that. This truck usually gets about 20 to 24 liters per 100 kilometers. I know you US boys probably don't know what that means, but this tune, throttle response, everything made a huge difference. We also put fresh plugs in this thing. That could have helped as well. But we got Ali here tuning this thing.
How you doing, guys?
One thing that I was gonna ask you, Ali, is are you more solely based on tuning just performance cars, or do you enjoy and do a lot of like tuning on just like basic cars like this for fuel economy and stuff like that? Because I'm sure there's going to be guys watching this video that are interested on doing stuff like this on their trucks or their cars.
Yeah, I mean, it started out just performance, strictly performance, but as the years went on, doing everything from Euro stuff, you know, imports, drift cars to trucks.
Yeah, that's wicked.
It's great. It's a good learning experience, and you never stop learning, and it's great to see results, especially fuel economy stuff.
Yeah,
it's really nice to see the results that you get from making some changes.
100%.
Yeah,
I was gonna sell this truck, not gonna lie, and seeing the fuel economy on this, it's a 6-liter LS in this thing, and I was getting like 24 liters per 100K. I was maybe getting 400 kilometers to a tank, and it was costing me like 140 bucks to fill this thing. So I bought a house. I'm sure you guys know what struggling financially is like. This truck was not fun. And now after this tune, we're gonna see how it goes over the next couple weeks, but I might keep it now. We'll see what happens. as you guys just saw in that little edit right there, this is Colin's 2005 STI, and this thing is sick. If you guys do not know already, Colin is the owner of Ronin Performance, our local Subaru Performance shop, and this is basically the shop track car. This is Colin's personal / company car, and they're gonna be yanking the motor out of this thing and resealing it, doing a whole bunch of work to it. And first step in getting all that done is we got some interior stuff to take care of here. This stock head unit is from like the early 2000s, and it's very, very old school. So we're gonna be pulling this thing out of here, and we're gonna be getting the Idoing head unit installed. We got the good old Idoing head unit. These things are my favorite because they come with literally everything you need straight out of the box. The cool thing about this head unit is all the other Idoing head units we've installed on this channel have been their old software. This one is their new updated software, which I'm excited to see how it performs compared to the old stuff. We got our plug and play wire harness that's gonna plug right into the factory connector and plug right into the Idoing head unit. We got our two 4G and 5G modem connectors. We got our GPS, which we're probably not gonna use this. We're probably not gonna use the 5Gs, but if you guys wanna use them, you can. And I think there's more USB connectors in here too. Yes, there is. There's a dual USB, another harness in here for if you have to hardwire it, which is pretty cool that they include that. So they have the plug and play one, and they have the wire it yourself one. Our dual USB adapter. We're just gonna take all this stuff out of the bags because there's so many harnesses that these comes with. Then we got our microphone, which we are definitely gonna install. Then first thing right out of the box is the trim kit. And they also give you trim tools with these things, which is awesome. And I don't even know where that head unit's gotta be in this because I don't see it in there. Holy shit. That is the thinnest head unit I've ever seen. All the other Idoing head units that I've ever put in have been pretty small, like nice big screen and like small on the back, but they usually come out to like here, maybe. This one's literally a flat screen TV. Look at how thin that is. It's so light too, that's crazy. So obviously before we get this head unit installed, we gotta remove all of the head unit stuff that's currently in the car. So we're just gonna get in behind there and push these pop clips. I believe you need to remove this bottom trim piece first. And then we got two Phillips screws on the bottom, on the other side right here, that we gotta remove to take this whole trim piece out. Then once you get this popped out, we are going to unplug all of our climate controls just to make this a little bit easier on ourselves so we can take this trim piece right out. And then there's also a little HVAC hose that you gotta pull off on the back as well. And this one is a little bit squished and messed up, but we could still make it work. We are also going to remove the climate controls from this factory trim piece, but we'll get there once we're actually swapping it over to the Idoing dash kit. Next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna pull out this Kenwood unit, which there should be 4 mounting screws on here. On the factory radio, I believe there would also be 4 mounting screws. I lied, there's 6 screws. There's 2 more lower ones. Now let's see what we got going on. Oh God, that is quite a mess. So with all the speaker stuff that he's got going on in this thing, he's got aftermarket door speakers and rear speakers, and he might have a sub in the back, I'm not 100% sure. But there's quite the rat's nest in here. And we are hoping to clean this right up with Idoing's plug and play harnesses. Alright, this probably looks super intimidating, and this is not what your guys' car is going to look like at all. Colin's car has an aftermarket amplifier running all 4 door speakers, and he also has a 12-inch sub, I believe, in the back that the amp is also running. So there's wires all over the place here. The only ones that we really need to worry about, and you guys probably saw in the time lapse that we did have the head unit on, is the antenna wire, the factory harness here, your 2 HVAC harnesses, and this big ground wire, which we might not even be using that big ground wire for the Idoing head unit. Everything else that's here is wires for gauges or for speaker wire for the amps or anything like that. So Colin bought this car and it was built by another shop. So this is just the quality that you get out of some people, which is absolutely horrendous. And this kind of stuff is hard to figure out if you're just gonna piece it all together and trace wires. So my style and what I like to do is we're just gonna cut the connectors off these back to all the colored wires, which is like the green, green and black, white, white and black, purple, purple and black, which is all speaker wire. car. We're gonna snip them all right here, snip these connectors off. We are gonna pull all the wires completely out of the car, and we're gonna start from scratch. Because if I'm being honest with you guys, I just don't like to screw with rat's nests like that. I like to make it clean and just build my own harnesses. So let's work on snipping these wires, getting everything except for the factory connectors pulled out, and then we'll show you guys how to actually plug in the Idoing head unit into the factory connectors and get it all set up. We finally got pretty much everything dialed in on this thing for the most part. I ran the USB cables for the head unit over here. I have the whole glove box pulled out. I am gonna just run the USB cables into the glove box. Then he also has some random USB cable running here. I'm assuming this is for his standalone ECU that he has in this thing. He must have it mounted up in behind the dash back there. So I'm not gonna mess with that yet. But what I did want to show is how much cleaner this is compared to what it was before. We got a whole mess of wires hanging out over there on the ground that were in this car that did not need to be there. And the other harness that I'm not 100% sure on is this guy right here. Judging by the looming on it, it actually does look like it's a factory harness. There is a red, gray, white, and black wire in this harness, and then there's an orange and purple one going to this connector. This connector does not plug into anything that Idoing has in their package, so I'm assuming this isn't going to be plugging into the head unit. It must have been something for the factory radio that doesn't need to be used on an aftermarket radio, but it does look like factory wire loom, so I'm probably going to run this in there and just leave it in behind the head unit just in case Colin needs it for something in the future. But for now, just to show you guys on the back of this thing, I did put pretty much every single harness on this thing. We got this harness here I just zip tied together. This has all the RCA outputs on it, which I'm probably going to end up using once I have a day to figure out what all of those RCA ports are going to in the back of the car for the subwoofer setup he has. Then there's also these other two connectors coming off of the main harness that's just plug and play for this radio into the factory harness right there. Those I just zip tied together, left them to the side for now. Then in this whole clump of wires right here, there is one that is labeled for the mic right here. So I got to go grab our mic and get that run underneath the dash up to right here, which is where he had the mic for his Kenwood head unit. So I got to pop this A-pillar off and run the wire down there all the way into the head unit. But for now, as you guys can see back here, if there wasn't all these harnesses that we're not using in the mix here, you can just see how much cleaner this is. There's maybe like 3 harnesses here, the 2 HVAC ones, the HVAC hose, one connector here for the AFR sensor, which I still need to plug in, and there is also another one down there that I still need to plug in, and then the one connector for the cigarette lighter. So she's nice and clean other than all these harnesses hanging out there, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want Colin to lose them, so I'm gonna plug them into the head unit. We'll leave them hanging out back there. That way next time I'm in here, I just pop the head unit out. All the wires are already here, ready for me to hook up to the RCAs once I figure out what they all go to. So now we can pretty much just get this thing installed. I transferred over the pop clips from the factory dash kit, which is right here. I just popped the white clips off of there and installed them on the Idoing kit. I got carried away again as usual and started doing a little bit more off camera than I probably should have, but it was all stuff that was kind of irrelevant to your guys' own install anyways. We ran all the wires for this DEFI, or however you say it, gauge warning indicator, tucked all the wires for that nice and secure underneath this so that all the body clips still snap. It's nice and clean and zip tied so you know where all the wires go. I secured a whole bunch of wires up by the gas pedal and ran the power wires for our AFR gauge over here to the fuse panel so that we can put an add a fuse in there and run our own ground wire. So that's nice and clean. Then all of the wires that I was kind of unsure of as to what we're doing with them yet, all I did was plug and play this Idoing head unit as if you were just unplugging a factory radio and plugging the Idoing head unit in. Everything works. But this car does have a lot of aftermarket sound systems installed. So we got this full harness here with a whole bunch of speaker wires. We got 3 RCA port connections, which are for the front, rear, and subwoofers. And then I have this other factory harness here. I'm honestly not sure what this is for yet, And that did come up to the head unit, but everything's working and I don't have that harness that run, so I'm not sure what that one is for. So if any of you guys know, toss it in the comments, judging by those wire colors. Then the other two speaker wires that were coming out of the kick panel there and running to the head unit, I just have them chilling. And this USB for his aftermarket ECU is also there. Then I ran the USB wires into the glove box. They're just chilling right here. You can just set them in there, shut your glove box, you don't even see the wires. So we got everything installed that we're gonna install in this video. Then all those wires I'm gonna have to deal with another day because I do not have time today to do that. Because this car has a full-on meth tank in the back and a 12-inch Alpine Type R subwoofer with an amp installed in behind there, a capacitor, and another amplifier that's installed up under right there. The other thing that's awesome is it doesn't look like much because I have it all packaged up nicely, but we ripped all of these wires and that head unit out of the car. Now we don't have all this rat's nest of stuff in there, and it's nice and clean. Because Idoing's head units are always plug and play, and they are the easiest freaking install out of any of the head units I used. This is not sponsored. I do not get paid to say that. I'm just being 100% honest with you guys. Installing other head units, you always got to buy the dash kit. You always got to buy the harnesses and all that stuff separate. Idoing, it just all comes in one kit, and you just slap it in the car. This battery is stone dead in this thing, so I got a booster rigged up with another battery on the ground and some booster cables. So sorry for the background noise, but let's get this thing fired up, and we're gonna have to run it in the shop, or else this is gonna die real fast. So we got the car running now, and it is automatically on Apple CarPlay. So if we tap the home button here, it'll take us right to the home screen. And one thing that is cool is Idoing actually updated their software. So you guys have seen my Idoing installs in the past, and you'll probably notice that the screen is not the same as what it used to be. But it's kind of cool. They got like a little phone here in the middle of the screen where you select your music, Bluetooth, or radio. As you can see with the radio, it kicks on right away. Bluetooth, it would kick on right away, but we are on Apple CarPlay. So if you have this thing connected to your hotspot on your phone, or you have a SIM card in it, you can click this button right here. It'll take you right to Google Maps, which is super freaking cool. It's basically a built-in GPS because everyone uses Google Maps or Apple Maps nowadays, so this is super convenient. Then if you click this button down here, it takes you to a whole bunch of apps that you can scroll through. They already got Netflix preloaded on here, Google, YouTube, Spotify, Google Maps, YouTube Music, Google Chrome, the Play Store, all that stuff. Another thing is if you go to the mixer here, that's where you're actually gonna adjust all of your EQ settings. So you can go to fader and balance, and you can adjust where in the car you want the speakers to be playing louder. You can adjust your bass boost, surround sound. There's a whole bunch of settings in here that you can mess around and go through. My main focus and my favorite part about these head units is that they are literally a tablet in your car. So you can go to the app selection over here, open this up, it'll open all your apps. The one most important app that's my favorite feature on these head units is the wireless CarPlay. Now on the old head units, I believed it was called CarLink, whereas on these new head units, it is called Z-Link 5. So it's an updated software. So we're gonna click on that, and that is literally gonna instantly connect to Apple CarPlay, which is wicked. The volume adjustment is super responsive, and the screen is super responsive. There's no delay whatsoever when you're clicking anything. Another thing that's cool about these is you can go into settings, and you can adjust all your stuff. You can connect to Wi-Fi, you can watch freaking movies on here if you want to connect to your phone's Wi-Fi hotspot or something like that. Bluetooth, you can adjust if you want the keytones to beep. You can hear the little beep every time I'm swiping. There's so many different options. You guys can go through the whole head unit, play with them all, and set it all the way that you like it. Well, if this was on one of your guys' cars, the head unit would be 100% installed if this was all factory wiring. But in this car, it's not. So there's still more to do, but that's gonna be it for this video. Huge thank you to Idoing for sending out the head unit. It is so cool that I'm in a position in my life right now where I can do this for other people and help other people out. This Kenwood deck was all messed up and was on the fritz of failure. I reached out to Idoing. They sent us one out. We helped Colin out and got him a new head unit in the 05 STI. So it's one more thing off the list of things that need to get done on this car that Colin doesn't have to worry about. So Colin went home for the night. I don't get to get his reaction of the head unit, but you guys saw how excited he was at the beginning of the video when I surprised him with it a couple months back. So if you guys want to get this exact same head unit kit, I will have it linked in the description below. I really like Idoing's new head unit update and the new processor that they're using. But that's going to be it for this video. Peace out, boys. Thank you so much for watching. I got to go build a turbo Honda.